What's up, you guys? I have truly got a museum quality bike here today. This is a 1997 Honda Magna 750. Very sweet bike. I've actually been wanting a Magna for quite a while. I picked this one up for dirt cheap because just like that CB550 I had, this bike was all taken apart when I bought it. Now again, I've never owned a Magna, so I was taking a little bit of a chance on it, but I had read lots of stuff about them. I know they're good bikes. Essentially, all I had to do was clean the carbs out, rebuild them, and then slap them back on the bike and put everything else back together. And man, what I gotta tell you, that was an excellent decision buying this, because this bike is awesome. Now, I wanted to just take a second here and talk about why I think this bike is so cool, and specifically why this engine is so cool. Now, this one is a later model, so I'm sure there have been some changes here and there. But, you know, back in the 80s when these came out, they were a pretty big deal, and the reason being is performance. So, this particular one puts out 87 horsepower and over 50 foot-pounds of torque. And you know what, for a cruiser bike, even today, that's pretty dang good. So back in the 80s, it was incredible. And believe it or not, Honda actually improved on this in 1983 with their V65 Magna, which is essentially a 1100cc version of this one that put out close to 120 horsepower, and I think the Guinness Book of World Records listed it at the time as the fastest production motorcycle, the stated top speed of like 160, so just nuts. And you know, other manufacturers took inspiration from this. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Yamaha VMAX and stuff like that. So just a really cool engine with a lot of history behind it, and kind of a hallmark for cruiser bikes. So really cool. So this particular one is ultra clean, and I find this more common than not that the owners of these Magnas are very meticulous, and the people that buy them really fall in love with them, and they take really good care of them. I mean, the cleanliness of the engine alone, it's incredible. For a 1997, it's almost unheard of, unless you're like a bike collector or something like that. But this bike was regularly ridden, and it's got 23,000 miles on it. So the guy definitely got his use out of it, and I'm sure he enjoyed the heck out of it. Again, it's a V4, it's liquid cooled, 748cc. And I should note that the red line on this bike is 10,000 RPM, which is insanely high for a cruiser bike, you know. So that's kind of part of the reason it performs so well, is because it really, it's not afraid to get into those high RPMs. I think peak horsepower is at around 8,000 RPM, something like that. So, you know, it definitely has a high power band, but you know, when you ride this thing and start winding it out, it's gonna be hard to resist it, I'll tell you that much. I can say that back in the day, these things blew Harleys out of the water. I love the quad exhaust on it, and even with these stock mufflers, they're pretty quiet, but man, they sound nice. Now, another thing I should note is, for being a carbureted bike, man, this thing runs incredible. I was so impressed with how well it runs. It always fires right up first thing. Never had any issues with that. Now, I did rebuild the carbs, and Obviously, this thing's been very well cared for, but still, man, you know, it's one of them things where you get a carbureted bike and you're always worried about kind of tuning and stuff like that. Look at this gauge cluster too. Isn't that just beautiful? I mean, it's a lot of chrome, which is kind of par for the course for this era, but very tastefully done in my opinion. I don't think all of them have these fog lights. These are kind of cool. And they got a switch for those right here. So I'm assuming that was an add-on. But yeah, I mean, I think this is probably one of my best running carbureted bikes right now, to be honest. And I would be perfectly comfortable taking this thing on a cross-country trip. Now, I don't think it will be a very comfortable trip. I'll just be honest with you guys. It's really not made to be a highway cruiser. I think the gearing is okay for it. However, just the way you sit on it, you get hit with a lot of wind. And so if you are thinking about it, I would invest in a windshield. Now, I do have a windshield for this. I can't stand the way it looks. So if you could find a windshield that you're comfortable with, it might be all right for that. But it's just really not designed for super long trips. It's more of a kind of a sport cruiser. So similar to maybe like a Sportster, something like that. Much faster than that, but kind of a similar look. So. If you guys are a Magna owner, I know the carburetors can seem very intimidating, but it's definitely doable. So this bike definitely has an upright seating, riding position. And I think for what it is, it's probably a good position. You know, it's almost a mix between a sport bike and a cruiser. Definitely not a traditional cruiser, especially with that V4 engine. 10,000 RPM redline. So far, super smooth ride. Tons of power. This thing really gets up and moves if you want it to. Let's just kind of casually stroll along. It's when you really start getting those RPMs up there past, 6,000 or 7,000. That's when that power band really hits and just takes off. See what I mean there? Little stretch to do our 0 to 60 run. Let's give it a shot. 0 to 60, 97 Magna. Not too bad. I want to say maybe around 5 seconds. Maybe less. Pretty damn dang good for a 750 cruiser, I'll tell you that much. This thing puts out impressive power numbers for a 750 cruiser bike, which is really a low to mid-size cruiser bike, engine size wise. So very, very impressive. I probably could have done a little bit better of a launch there, but it is what it is. Behind a bunch of slow people, but I managed to get her up to 75, and we were sitting right about 5,000 RPM. So I think gear-wise, this isn't a bad commuter bike or cruiser bike. However, the lack of a windshield just makes it not very comfortable for cruising high speed like that. I do have a windshield for this one, so if I were to take this on any longer trips, 100% I would put that windshield back on it, because you've got a lot of exposed areas here, and you can really feel that blast of wind right in your face. Feels pretty nimble for a cruiser bike on the corners. It definitely takes a little bit getting used to because of the upright riding position. If you're used to your Harleys and others where your pegs are farther forward, this one kind of just, your feet are right under your knees, depending on how tall you are, obviously. As far as cornering and stuff, like I said, you got a lot of ground clearance from what I can tell. Not once have I ever scraped the pegs or anything like that. And I can lean this bike pretty far over without even being close to doing that. So that's pretty good for a cruiser bike. Now, this bike is in such good condition, I mean, it could literally be in a museum. I'm a little hesitant to really push the limits because I don't want to risk tipping it over, because if I did that, I'd probably never live with myself. This guy's going like 10 miles an hour. Don't you hate that when it's like people never can go just the speed limit? They either have to be going topping out their car or going like half the speed limit. It's like, dude, if everyone just went the right speed, there would probably be almost little to no traffic. Yeah. gotta tell you too, for turns and corners, guys, it helps so much to be in the proper gear, because the last thing you want is to have to speed up or slow down to match your gear while you're turning. That can cause you to dump the bike. Kickstand's a little hard to reach, but that's all right. There she is. Not bad. Well, that about does it for this one, guys. I really enjoyed this. I hope you did as well. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the previous owners of this bike. I am so happy that you guys took such good care of this thing. You really did a service to the motorcycle community. And I hope that more people can aspire to do what you do. This bike will be enjoyed for many years to come. So thank you.